Good morning. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about multiples and LCM, otherwise known as the least common multiple. First, we have to review that key vocabulary word. What is a multiple? A multiple is a number which can be divided by another number without a remainder. For example, 32 divided by 4 equals 8. And 32 divided by 8 is equal to 4. Therefore, 32 is a multiple of 4, and it's also a multiple of 8. If I wanted to find the multiples of 3, I could start by multiplying 3 times the number 1, which is 3, 3 times 2, which is 6, 3 times 3, which is 9, and 3 times 4, which is 12. I could continue on in this pattern, but if you take a look, I right here have the first 4 multiples of 3. The first multiple of any number is always itself, because you can always multiply a number times 1 to get itself. This little cartoon helps you take a look at reminding you what a multiple is. Marty, what is a multiple? What does it remind you of? Multiply. Multiples are the results of when you multiply. So if I do 2 times 3 equals 6, 6 is a multiple of 2 and 3. What other multiples of 3 can you think of? 9. Yes, what about 12 and 15? So this little cartoon, loving the clothes first of all, but if this little cartoon, we take a look, and they do, you can see that the friend on the right asks the friend on the left, Marty, what word he thinks of when he sees the word multiple. And you can just sit there and remember to multiply in order to get your multiples. Another way that you can find multiples is to use a hundredths chart. If I wanted to go back to 3 again and find the multiples of 3, I could start with 3 and then count up 3 more, and I'll get 6. And 3 more would be 9. 3 more would be 12. 3 more would be 15. 3 more would be 18. 3 more would be 21, and so on. And if I kept going, it would look like this. So if you look at your chart, what you're actually doing in this case of finding multiples is you're skip counting by 3s. And this is still the same thing of multiplying 2 numbers together to get these numbers. For instance, if we look at 60, we got 60 by multiplying 3 times 20. We could have reached the answer 60 another way, but we know that it's a multiple of 3 because I can multiply 3 times 20 to get 60. How do I know that 21 is a multiple of 3? Because I could multiply 3 times 7 to get 21. Now let's take a look at what the LCM is. It's otherwise known as the least common multiple. So when we go ahead, we're going to be looking for multiples of a number, finding out what they have in common, actually finding multiples of 2 or more numbers, then finding out what they have in common, and then finding which one is the least or the smallest one that they have in common. Let's say I want to find the least common multiple, or the LCM, of 3 and 5. Remember, when you count by these numbers, you can go on and on and on forever. So what you want to do is you want to list just a few multiples in one list and a few multiples in the other list. And you keep doing that until you reach a number that they have in common. Let's start with 3. If I count by my threes, as I was doing earlier, I have 3, 6, 9, 12. And now maybe I want to jump over to my 5s list and list a few multiples. 5, 10, there's nothing in common yet, so I know I'm going to have to keep going. 15, 20. Okay, still nothing comes, so I'm going to go back up to my 3s. So I had 3, 6, 9, 12. My next one is 15. Oh, I can stop right now. I don't have to keep listing any more multiples because I already see that they each have one in common. I see that 15 appears in my multiples of 3 list, and it also appears in my multiples of 5 list. Remember, least common multiple stands for, we're looking for the multiples in the two numbers. We're finding out what they have in common, and we're looking for the least number, or the smallest one. I did not have to keep going with my list because I had seen that they both had 15. So the least common multiple of 3 and 5 is 15. If I wanted to use my hundreds chart, I could go back here to where we were counting by 3s. We're going to go ahead and we're just going to get rid of the factor pairs there. Now we're going to leave the numbers that we circled in red because those are multiples of 3. We're going to go ahead and in yellow, we're going to find the multiples of 5. So we know when we count we had 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And if we keep going, we'll end up like this. We can see all the multiples of 3 in red and all the multiples of 5 in yellow. Now, of course, this is not all of the possible multiples of 3 and 5. However, these are just the multiples of 5 between 1 and 100, and of 3. If we wanted to find the least common multiple, first of all, we would find all the numbers, as we have here, that are multiples of 3 and multiples of 5. And we did that. We found all those numbers. They're circled in red for 3 and in yellow for 5. And we wanted to find out what they had in common. Well, we go through and we found them because they're circled in red and yellow. Those are multiples that are multiples of 3 and multiples of 5. And in order to find the least one, we go back into this hundreds chart and we find the smallest one that they have in common. And as we go along this top line, we see numbers 1 through 10. None of the numbers are circled in both colors. But as soon as we get into that second line, we see right there the 15 is circled in both red and yellow. Therefore, 15 is our least common multiple. Let's do another one and find the least common multiple of 6 and 9. First, I'm going to go ahead and list those multiples of 6. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. Now I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to list some multiples of 9. 9, 18, 27, 36. If I go back and I look at my lists and I see what they have in common, since I've already listed the multiples, I see that they both have 18 and they both have 36. While I was writing my multiples of 9, if I had already noticed that 18 was in my multiples of 6 list, I could have stopped. I didn't need to go any further because that was all I had already reached, the smallest or the least multiple that they had in common. So the least common multiple of 6 and 9 is 18.